Bismillah wa salatu salam ala nabina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Thank you again for clicking on me. Thank you again for watching. Inshallah, I have a nice talk and a very bright reminder, inshallah. So I encourage you all to take note of it and to really just focus on these things, and inshallah, this will then benefit you and benefit everyone that you tell, inshallah. So we can share the reward and spread the reward together. Today's topic is extremely important, as every topic I've ever mentioned, and as many other YouTube clips of our brothers and sisters trying to remind us to stay focused on the path of Allah. And today's message really is to distinguish the difference between the human beings and the animals. And you think to yourself, well, this is an extremely simple thing. Animals are animals and human beings are human beings. But to many people, right, many people believe that the human being, of course, came from the animal. So this may be a valid argument for others. For other people, they find it that it's obvious, without any question, that a human being is better and more superior than the animals, simply because, of course, that we are human beings. We can go to work, we can make money, we can build buildings, and some people have this argument. But I, in fact, plan to challenge the belief of many of you and of all of you and prove to you that unless you're really focused and unless you're truly aware of what Islam is, what this beautiful religion we have been blessed with, you really are very similar to an animal. Now, very big claim. Right? How is it that human beings are similar to animals? Now, when you look at the behavior of an animal, you'll find that the animal, he hunts, he mates, he creates nests, he has a protective area, he goes with his pack, right? He's in a school, whatever it may be. And this is his daily routine. And the next day is a whole different day. Never once does the animal think about tomorrow. Never once does the animal think what he's going to do 3 days from now, or 1 week from now, or 1 year from now. This is nowhere near the mind of the animal. Now, a human being, what I'm saying is the most distinguishing factor of the human being is our ability to look forward, our ability to think about the future. Now, when I say think about the future, I obviously don't mean crystal ball set up and you're looking and wishing, and obviously I'm not talking about this. This is common sense. But what I am talking about is we can plan. And the human being that I'm talking about is not the human being that's focused on who he's planning to go to the movies with, or who the individual is planning to mate with, or how he's trying to get money. This is the primitive human being in my classification. This is the caveman human being, if you will. What I'm talking about is the human being planning to go into Jannah. The human being that has looked past the boundaries of this short life and looking deep into the future, deep into the grave, and deep into the hereafter. Now, to draw the comparison, you go outside, wherever you live, whether you're in a Muslim country or a non-Muslim country, whether you're here, whether you're there, and you will find by the millions, by the thousands, human beings that walk, that can talk, that can earn an income, acting exactly like an animal. They go, they eat, they find a member of the opposite sex, they mate with them, they throw them out of their bed the next day, and the system repeats itself. No loyalty, no care, completely animalistic. No sense of dignity, no sense of shame. You're hearing things on the radio now, people writing books about different perverted things. You go on the internet now looking for anything, and you're just bombarded with indecency. You're bombarded with trash. You are forced, if not steadfast, forced to become like an animal. Now there is a higher class of human beings, right? This is the real beauty of Allah's creation, the real human being. And this human being realizes that his fellow human beings are in fact barbaric, are in fact animals, are in fact, as they would say, that we are, uncultured or uncivilized. Rather, we see this disgust and we say, how could I lower myself to this if I'm trying to gain the pleasure of Allah, gain the pleasure of our Creator? And this is where I want you to focus. For 1 second, stop and really understand this distinguishing factor between the human beings and the animals. The human being thinking about the hereafter, and the human being thinking like an animal, giving him the satisfaction of what will make him satisfied, what will make her satisfied. And these are the two fundamental differences, in my opinion, about animals and human beings. You can argue about vertebrae, you can argue about fur, you can argue about skin, but for those that really want to look deep, and for those that really want to enrich their soul, the ones constantly thinking about Jannah and the ones that are not. These are the biggest differences. Now, many of us, we don't know exactly how to please Allah all the time. We find it extremely difficult, especially our youth. Me, of course, being one of the youth, and many others. And it's a constant struggle. And we have the older people, our people of wisdom, our elders, also struggling, saying that they're too old now. What can they do? And you see this seesaw effect. You're too young at one point, you're too old at one point, and when you're in the middle, life is full of work and children and family, and what do? Right? We're assuming that we've already passed this part of the human being that thinks like an animal. We see the flaws. They don't care what situation they get into. They see something, they want it, they go after it. Whether it's a female, whether it's a male, whether it's food, everything becomes animalistic. Now I mentioned food, right? And the people that are God conscious, they think, well, how is food going to have a negative effect? Right? How is food a factor? Because everything we do, there are two opinions on it. You can either take this decision as an animal or take this decision as a human being. The human being and the animal, these are the two comparisons. Now the animal, ignore the obvious harams, ignore them all. This, that, we know all about that. But what about food? What about sleeping? What about these things that both species have in common? How are we to distinguish ourselves in these? And that's the real question. This is where the real meat of the discussion is today. And the fact that an animal sleeps and a human being sleeps, does that not make us the same? And again, I will argue and say no, of course not. The human being is different for one reason. The animal, when he sleeps because he's tired. He sleeps because it's dark. He sleeps because what else is he going to do? He's exhausted and he needs to recharge. Many of you may be thinking, well, isn't that the exact same reason why humans sleep? And I will challenge this, and I will say no. The human being sleeps so he can have the strength to worship his Creator with full belief, with full trust, with full concentration. This is why the human being sleeps. Eating. An animal eats and a human being eats. But what are the main differences? An animal will eat whatever he finds, wherever he finds it. Now, whether it's alive before or dead before, different animals have different approaches. But the main thing is he will eat at his heart's content, and when he is done, he will walk away and that's it. The human being, if he acts the same way, will be like the animal, and he'll become lazy, he'll be lethargic, and he'll be tired. But the human being, when he eats, he should be aware of why he is eating. so he can be again alive, so he can sustain himself, so he can be strong, so he can worship his Creator. But at the same time, eating in moderation, so he doesn't become lazy, and he doesn't neglect his worship, and he doesn't ignore the rights of others. These are the key reasons. These are so important, because the difference between the man and animal is the ability to intentionalize, the ability to say, I'm doing this to enter Jannah. I'm doing this for the pleasure of Allah. I'm doing this so my Creator will let me into paradise. And this is the mindset we as human beings have to say. So what I want to remind you all, inshallah, with is this very simple concept. That the Creator of the world, that the Creator of the universe has created animals and human beings. And if we are not willing to distinguish ourselves as human beings and think about the future, not where my money is coming from, not what am I going to do for work, not what TV shows on Friday and today's Wednesday. This is still extremely short term, and I would say, again, this is the caveman thought. But as a real human being, challenge yourself. Think about the future. Think about what will happen once you're dead. And this is the true human being, the one that realizes his Creator, and the one that is constantly praising his Creator, and the one that realizes that he is not an animal, but a blessed servant of Allah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.